I don't want you to get offended by what I'm going to ask you to do, but I want you to think about what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to Google the definition of delusional. And the reason I ask you to do that is because I am always set back by an owner's belief in how well they're doing. Not always, but a lot of times. Set back by an owner's belief in how well they're doing when in reality, they're average at best. And it's very rare that an owner wants to look in the mirror and actually have a gut check on where they're at. So the word I use and the word we use around here sometimes is delusional. So they've painted themselves a picture of grandeur. They're driving a nice car, which they've leased, they haven't purchased. And they're in a nice building, but cash flow's a little tight from time to time after being in business for 25 years. We had a client recently that is doing about $60 million a year, $60 million a year, and they were profitable, about 2% profitable, and it should be significantly more. And they were $13 million into a $20 million line of credit and haven't paid down a penny of it in years. And the answer was, we're building inventory, the company's growing. And when you looked at their receivables and their inventory versus their payables, there was no great shift. So they have not been out of that line of credit or even been able to pay it down in years and years and years. And to them, that was normal. To me, that's psychotic. Absolutely psychotic, because a line of credit is a demand loan, right, folks? You better remember that. It's not your money. It's a demand loan. I had another client a few years back that had about $9 million in customer deposits and only had $1 million cash in the bank. And I said, where's the other $8 million? And they went into this whole litany of ridiculousness. And the bottom line, it's ridiculousness, which delusional. I want you to look up the definition of delusional, and I want you to see if you're strong enough to hold a mirror up to your face and say, this might be me. I might be painting a picture of what I am, but am I really as successful as I should be? And are you strong enough to look at that? So last story I'll give you is we had a client years ago, and I think in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, I don't remember where. And he had all these pictures of all these politicians and all of these fancy friends that he's made over the years building up his business to about 10 or 11 million bucks, whatever he was doing. And he spent years to build it to 10, 11 million bucks, and he did. But he had all these pictures of mayors and congressmen and senators and governors and blah, 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 all over his wall, shaking his hand, loving him, hugging him. And I actually went there one day, and I just looked him in the eye, and I said to him, so let me get this straight. Do any of them know you don't make money? Do any of them know that this is just a shell? You don't make money. And he goes, well, I've never discussed that with them. And I said, okay. So here's the last question I got for you. When you shut the business down, do you think any one of them are going to want to take pictures with you or shake your hand or hug you anymore? They even going to know your name? And he said, I never thought about it like that. Well, how else is there to think about it? I think every business owner has a significant ego. Right? I don't own an ounce of American management. I have an ego. I mean, I get it. I've been doing this forever, so I think I know everything most of the time. I get it. But I think owners, especially guys, see, to me, the guy that built it from the ground up with his hands that had nothing to start with sort of has the right to pat himself on the back. It's junior and the second and third generations that were handed a clipboard that blow my mind. They should have no ego. They should have humility, and they don't, for the most part. They don't. So I think ego can get in the way of a lot of things. But delusional, I think, to me, is a lot of owners have never been educated that this is how you should execute and this is where your profit should be. They haven't been educated for that. So they think what they're doing is okay. I mean, you want to call it okay? I call it delusional. I'd rather work with a guy that's never content than with a guy that thinks what he's got is good enough and who cares about anything else? That guy's going to lose eventually. He's going to lose what he's got. Someone's going to eat his lunch. Someone's going to clean his clock. So I want the killer. I want the guy that's never happy. Listen, I love clients that are doing $10 million a year in revenue and putting $1.5 million in their pocket, and they're not happy. I love those guys. That's a guy that's never going to let anything get in the way of him being more successful. And he wants to do great things. I love those people. Love them to death. But that's every privately held business owner. So when business owners tell us they're content, they're happy where they're at, they don't want any more, they're delusional. They're full of baloney. They just don't want to talk about it. There's not one business owner that shows up to work every day that says, gee, I want to keep the status quo. There's not one. I haven't met them. And if that's what they're telling you, they're full of baloney. They're delusional, whatever you want to call it. Do you want to be extraordinarily successful, or do you want to make believe you're extraordinarily successful? Which one do you want? Me, it's pretty simple philosophy. Stop being delusional, be realistic, be extraordinarily successful, because everything else is not where you should be, and your family deserves it. Delusional. Google it. Discuss it with your wife and your kids. Have a great day.